Hey class, this is a primer on Python list functions. Now here on the screen, I've got a list of the functions to the left that we'll examine in this primer, and then a list of list methods. And remember, functions and methods are slightly different. And the next primer will go through all of these methods. So for the list functions, here's what we're going to look at. In this primer, we'll take a look at length, max and min, reverse, sorted, and sum. And since these are function calls, these are built-in native functions that we can just simply call, and all of them will require an argument that is a bona fide Python list. Now, to do functions successfully like max and min and sum, it will require us, and sorted also, it will require us to have compatible data types in these lists. So for example, if you had a list of strings, you couldn't call sum on it, but you could call min and max, because that will simply return the greatest and the least string by ASCII value. But for the most part, you'll need to have a consistent data structure so it knows what to work with. So let's take a look at these next. I've got some sample code here, and we will go through it, and we'll see how these various functions work. And then you'll see that this exact code is posted to Canvas under this video page here. So first of all, here is just a good old Python list that has got 7 floats in it, kind of in random order, random precision, but this has got those. Now, length, len, is a function that simply returns the length. So length will, again, require that argument of the list that we are intending to find the length of. And it outputs and returns the number of elements in that list. So pretty straightforward. And we'll see here in the output example that the very first thing we output is 7, and sure enough, that's the number of elements in the list. So that's just length. Min and max simply go through that list, figure out the max and the min. And this is a great function. In C++, you have to kind of generate your own function for that. But in Python, it's built in. Now, this next one is interesting because reversed, we would think, would just generate a reversed list. But it actually doesn't. It doesn't produce a list as a return value. It just produces an iterable. And we'll see as this course goes on that iterables are a different animal. They're not lists, but they're just simply a methodology through which we can go and process a list. So this reversed here actually creates this really weird output right here. It gives us the address of the object, and this address is resident on my memory on this box, and I'm coming at you live from a MacBook Pro. And we would think that it would, looking at the code, our human mind would think it would just reverse it, but it doesn't. Instead, since it's an iterable, then this code right here means if we inject that iterable into the for loop header, we can then simply extract the value. And this is exactly how you would go about doing this for val in reversed A. And then there we can print out all of those elements there. So that's how we would do that. Sorted does exactly what we think it does. It prints out a sorted list. So here is the new sorted list. And of course, you can do an assignment rather than a print, and it will it'll sort all that out. No, I'm sorry, this is the one here. That's the sorted list there, going from 1.1 all the way up to 12.2. And if we sort of go up and look at the original list A here that's highlighted, we see, yeah, I can kind of put my thumb up like that. And it looks like 1.1 is the min and 12.2 is the max. Now then this last one, sum A, simply goes through and sums up the elements. And again, these need to be elements that can actually be summed. This would return an error if it's like a list of strings, some other type of error if it was a list of embedded objects or something. But so it needs to work on a list of native integers or floats. So here we see that we get the output here of 42.87. Now, just as a refresher here, what this actually does, this print statement, is it prints out whatever is between the two double quotes. And since we're using that dot format method, it's going to then substitute whatever's within the curly braces. It's going to substitute for the argument of the format statement. So whatever sum A is, it is going to get output in this format right here. And just as a refresher, the colon is a format specifier. The 7 is a field width. The decimal 2 means I want 2 decimal places of precision, and the F means a floating point number. You can do a colon 5D, for example, and that will output an integer in a field width of 5. So we'll get used to printing this. I'm pretty sure that you've had exposure to this. If not, then we'll have a lot of reinforcement of using the format method to output various entities to the precision that we want. So again, this just lists all of the functions that we might be interested in here. And let's go back to that. So we saw here that length just simply returns the number. Max and min, provided that there's an argument in here, it'll return the max or the min, and that also applies for strings. Remember, reversed does not operate the way that our human minds might think it would. And instead, we need to use that, since it's an iterable and not a list, we would have to iterate and use that in a for loop to iterate through that list. Sorted does exactly what we do, what we expect. It returns a list that's sorted, and then sum does exactly what we expect. It will return the sum that is either a sum of the integers or a sum of the floats. All right, so I hope this helps with list functions. And again, look at the code that I'll paste in for this sample code.